Princess Bella-Flor. Once upon a time there lived a man who had two sons. When they grew up, the elder went to seek his fortune in the far country, and for many years no one heard anything from him. Meanwhile, the younger son stayed home with his father, who died at last in a good old age, leaving great riches behind him. For some time the son who stayed home spent his father's wealth freely, believing that he alone remained to enjoy it. But one day, as he was coming down the stairs, he was surprised to see a stranger enter the hall, looking about as if the house belonged to him. "Have you forgotten me?" asked the man. "I can't forget a person I've never known," was the rude answer. "I am your brother," replied the stranger, "and I returned home without the money I'd hoped to make. And what is worse, they told me in the village that my father is dead. And I would have counted my lost gold, had nothing, if I had seen him once more." "He died 6 months ago," said the rich brother, "and he left you, as your portion, the old wooden chest that stands in the loft. You had better go there and look for it. I had no more time to waste." And he went on his way. So the wanderer turned his steps to the loft, which was at the top of the storehouse. And there he found the wooden chest, so old that it looked as if it would drop into pieces. "What is the use of this old thing?" he said to himself. "Oh well, it will serve me to light a fire at which I can warm myself, so things could be worse after all." Placing the chest on his back, the man, whose name was Jose, set out for his inn, and borrowing a hatchet began to chop up the box. In doing so, he discovered a secret drawer, and in it lay a paper. He opened the paper, not knowing what it might contain, and was astonished to find that it was acknowledgment of a large debt that was owing to his father. Putting this precious writing in his pocket, he hastily inquired of the landlord where he could find the man whose name was written inside, and he ran out at once in search of him. The debtor proved to be an old miser, who lived at the other end of the village. He had hoped for many months that the paper had written had been lost or destroyed, and indeed, when he saw it, was very unwilling to pay what he owed. However, the stranger threatened to drag him before the king, and when the miser saw that there was no help for it, he counted out the coins, one by one. The stranger picked them up and put them in his pocket, and went back to his inn, feeling as now he was a rich man. A few weeks after this, he walked into the streets of the nearest town, where he met a poor old woman crying bitterly. He stopped to ask her what was the matter, and she answered between her sobs that her husband was dying. To make things worse, a creditor whom he could not pay was anxious to have him taken to prison. "Comfort yourself," said the stranger kindly. "They shall neither send your husband to prison nor sell your goods. I will not only pay his debts, but if he dies, the cost of his burial also. And now go home and nurse him as well as you can." And so she did. But in spite of her care, the husband died and was buried by the stranger. But everything cost more than he expected. When all was paid, he found that only 3 gold pieces were left. "What am I to do now?" he said to himself. "I think I'd better go to court and enter the service of the king." At first, he was only a servant who carried the king the water for his bath, and as he saw his bed was made in a particular fashion, but he did his duties so well that his master soon took notice of him, and in a short time he rose to be a gentleman of the bedchamber. Now, when this happened, the younger brother had spent all the money he had inherited, and did not know how to make any for himself. Then he bethought himself the king's favorite, and went whining to the palace to beg that his brother, whom he had so ill used, would give him his protection and find him a place. The elder, who was always ready to help anyone who spoke to the king on his behalf, and the next day the young man took up his work at court. Unfortunately, the newcomer was by nature spiteful and envious, and could not bear anyone to have better luck than himself. By dint of spying through keyholes and listening at doors, he learned that the king, old and ugly though he was, had fallen in love with the Princess Bella-Flor, who would have nothing to say to him, and had hidden herself in some mountain castle, no one knew where. "That will do nicely," thought the scoundrel, rubbing his hands. "It will be quite easy to get the king to send my brother in search for her. If he returns without her, his head will be forfeit. Either way, he will be out of my path." So he went at once to the Lord High Chamberlain and craved an audience with the king, to whom he declared he wished to tell some news of the highest importance. The king admitted him into the presence chamber without delay, and bade him state what he had to say, and to be quick about it. "Oh, sire, the Princess Bella-Flor," answered the man, then stopped as if he were afraid. "What of Princess Bella-Flor?" said the king impatiently. "I've heard whispers at court that your majesty desires to know where she lies in hiding." "I will give half my kingdom to the man who will bring her to me," cried the king eagerly. "Speak on, knave. Has the bird of the air revealed to you her secrets?" "Not as It is not I, but my brother who knows," replied the traitor. "If your majesty would ask him." But before the words were out of his mouth, the king had struck a blow with his scepter on a golden plate that hung on the wall. "Order Jose to appear before me instantly," he shouted to the servant, who ran to obey his orders. So great was the noise that his majesty made, and when Jose entered the hall, wondering what in the world could be the matter, the king was nearly dumb from rage and excitement. "Bring me the Princess Bella-Flor this moment," stammered he, "for if you return without her, I will have you drowned." And without another word he left the hall, leaving Jose staring with surprise and horror. "How can I find the Princess Bella-Flor when I've never seen her before?" he thought. "But it is no use me staying here, for I shall only be put to death." And he walked slowly to the stables to choose himself a horse. There were rows upon rows of fine beasts with their names written in gold above their stalls, and Jose was looking uncertainly from one to another, wondering which he should choose, when an old white horse turned its head and signed him to approach. "Take me," it said in a gentle whisper, "and all will go well." Jose still felt bewildered with the mission the king had given him that he forgot to be astonished to hear a talking horse. Mechanically, he laid his hand to the bridle and led the white horse out of the stable. He was about to mount his back when the animal spoke again. "Pick up those 3 loaves of bread which you see there, and put them in your pocket." Jose did as he was told, and being in a great hurry to get away, asked no questions, but swung himself into the saddle. They rode far without meeting any adventures, but at length they came to an ant-hill, and the horse stopped. "Rumble those 3 loaves for the ants," he said. But Jose hesitated. "Why, we may want them for ourselves," answered he. "Never mind that. Give them to the ants all the same. Don't lose the chance of helping others." And when the loaves lay in crumbs on the road, the horse galloped on. By and by they entered a rocky pass between 2 mountains, and there they saw an eagle that had been caught in a hunter's net. "Get down and cut the meshes of the net and set the poor bird free," said the horse. "But it will take so long," objected Jose, "and we may miss the princess." "Never mind that. Do not lose the chance of helping others," answered the horse. And when the meshes were cut and the eagle was free, the horse galloped on. They had ridden many miles, and at last they came to a river, where they beheld a little fish lying gasping on the sand. And the horse said, "Do you see the little fish? It will die if you do not put it back in the water." "But really, we shall never find the Princess Bella-Flor if we waste our time like this," cried Jose. "Never waste times when you're helping others," answered the horse. And soon the little fish was swimming happily away. A little while after they reached the castle, which was built into the middle of a very thick wood, and right in front was Bella-Flor, feeding her hens. "Now listen," said the horse. "I am going to give all sorts of little hops and skips, which will amuse the Princess Bella-Flor. Then she will tell you that she would like to ride a little way, and you must help her to mount. When she is seated, I shall begin to neigh and kick, and you must say that I've never carried a woman before, and that you had better get up behind as to be able to manage me. Once on my back, we will go like the wind to the king's palace." Jose did exactly as the horse told him, and everything fell out as the animal had prophesied. so that it was not until they were galloping breathlessly towards the palace that the princess knew that she was taken captive. She said nothing, however, but quietly opened her apron, which contained the bran of the chickens. In a moment it lay scattered on the ground. "Oh, I've let fall my bran!" she cried. "Please get down and pick it up for me." But Jose only answered, "We shall find plenty of bran where we're going," and the horse galloped on. They were now passing through a forest, and the princess took out her handkerchief and threw it upwards, so that it stuck in one of the topmost branches of the tree. "Oh, me, how stupid! I've let my handkerchief blow away," she said. "Will you climb up and get it for me?" But Jose answered, "We shall find plenty of handkerchiefs where we're going," and the horse galloped on. After the wood, they reached a river, and the princess slipped a ring off her finger and let it roll into the water. "How careless of me!" she gasped, beginning to sob. "I've lost my favorite ring. Do stop for a moment. Let me see if you can find it." But Jose answered, "You will find plenty of rings where you are going," and the horse galloped on. At last they entered the palace gates, and the king's heart bounded with joy at beholding his beloved Princess Bella-Flor. But the princess brushed him aside as if he had been a fly, and locked herself into the nearest room, which she would not open for all his entreaties. "Bring me the things I lost on the way, and perhaps I may think about it," was all she would say. And in despair, the king was driven to take counsel of Jose. "There is no remedy I can see," said his majesty, "but that you, who know where they are, should go and bring them back, and if you return without them, I will have you drowned." Poor Jose was much troubled at these words, and thought that he had done all that was required of him, and that his life was safe. However, he bowed low and went out to consult his friend, the horse. "Do not vex yourself," said the horse, when he had heard the story. "Jump up, and we will go and look for the things." And Jose mounted at once. They rode on till they came to the ant-hill, and then the horse asked, "Would you like to have the bran?" "What is the use of liking?" answered Jose. "Well, call the ants and tell them to fetch it for you, and if some of it has been scattered to the wind, it will bring instead the grains which will make cakes you gave them." Jose listened in surprise, and did not much believe in the horse's plan, but he could not think of anything better, so he called the ants and bade them collect the bran as fast as they could. Then he sat under a tree and waited, while his horse cropped the turf. "Look there," said the animal, raising his head, and Jose looked behind him and saw a little mountain of bran, which he put into a bag that was hung in the saddle. "Good deeds bear fruit, sooner or later," observed the horse. "But mount again, we have far to go." So they arrived at the tree. They saw the handkerchief flutting like a flag on the topmost branch, and Jose's spirits sank again. "How am I to get that handkerchief?" he cried. "Why, I would need a Jacob's ladder." But the horse answered, "Do not be frightened. Call the eagle you set free from the net. He will bring it to you." So Jose called to the eagle, and the eagle flew up to the tree and brought back the handkerchief in its beak. Jose thanked him, and vaulting on his horse, they rode on to the river. A great deal of rain had fallen in the night, and the river, instead of being clear as it was before, was dark and troubled. "How am I to fetch the ring from the bottom of this river when I do not know exactly where it was dropped? I cannot even see it," asked Jose. But the horse answered, "Do not be frightened. Call the little fish whose life you saved, and she will bring it to you." So he called to the fish, and the fish dived to the bottom and slipped behind big stones, and moved little ones with its tail till it found the ring, and brought it to Jose in its mouth. Well pleased with all he had done, Jose returned to the palace, and when the king took the precious objects to Bella-Flor, she declared that she would never open the door till the bandit who had carried her off had been fried in oil. "I am very sorry," said the king to Jose. "I would really rather not, but you see, I have no choice." While the oil was being heated in a great cauldron, Jose went to the stables to inquire of his friend the horse if there was No way for him to escape.
"Do not be frightened," said the horse. "Get on my back, and I will gallop till my whole body is wet with perspiration. Then rub it all over your skin, and no matter how hot the oil may be, you will never feel it."
Jose did not ask any more questions, but did as the horse bade him, and then wondered at his cheerful face as they lowered him into the cauldron of boiling oil. He was left there till Bella-Flor cried that he must be cooked enough, and then came out the youth so young and so handsome that everyone fell in love with him, and Bella-Flor most of all. As for the old king, he saw that he had lost the game, and in despair he flung himself into the cauldron, and was fried instead of Jose. Then Jose was proclaimed king, on condition that he married Bella-Flor, which he promised to do the next day. But first he went to the stables and sought out the horse, and said to him, "It is to you I owe my life and my crown. Why have you done all this for me?" And the horse answered,
"I am the soul of an unhappy man whom you've spent all your fortune, and when I saw you in danger for death, I begged that I might help you, and you have helped me. For, as I told you, good deeds bear their own fruit."